page 6. On page 6, that is an actual outage slide, okay? If you look on the left-hand side, in the old system, that's a system with these meters, the old dial meters. In order for us to find out that there is an outage, you've got to call us and tell us. So you see the blue circles, 2, 4, 6 times. 6 people have called us. It's kind of hard to get a perspective that an entire circuit's out when 6 people call you. You don't know if you don't know where the houses are. You don't know if they're all right next to each other. You really don't know. The next box with all the red dots, that's the actual circuit problem. That's what we see. So while we still want you to call, the red dots tells us that I've got an entire circuit problem and we can start dealing with that rather than have to send a crew out to investigate and say, oh boy, I got to drive from here to there. I've got to do the investigation and find out that there's a problem. Then I got to go back and get the guys ready and come back and do the work. I can do the work, all of that planning work before we get there. And that's what we did in this case. And this is an actual case. And if we put it back in circuit or back in service, what you would notice is that the green dots or the red dots would become green, and any house that is trouble behind trouble would stay red, and the crew can deal with that. That's page 6. So page 7, AMI actually increases actual meter reads. Now, I'm going to tell you, we have been operating around 99.6% average. Does that sound right, Bob? Which, when you've got deep snow, extreme cold, crummy weather, is just outstanding, at least in our industry. Special reads, I mean, traditionally, if a guy gets an estimated bill, if we're in the 80 percentile and you get an estimated bill, we got to dispatch people out. They've got to go out and read meters. We really don't have to do those things. If a customer does call and says, I got an actual reading, I'd like you to reread it for me, we can do it while he's on the phone. The other thing it does is it gives customers access to their historical data on the next day. So if you want to look and see, how much energy you used on Monday, on Tuesday, all you got to do is log into the system and it'll tell you. Now, where that's pretty slick is, if you go in and say, how much energy do I use at night? Kind of hard to tell with the traditional system because it only gives you a reading once a month. This gives you a reading every hour. And you can actually look and say, okay, between the hours of 10, if you go to bed at 10 and 6, and I get up at 6, kind of gauge and see how much energy you do use. So it's pretty interesting on how the information that this will provide to you. But it's always next day. Obviously, it gives the customer reps better, serve you better. I mean, if you call them, they can look in and read your meter for you. Again, you've got remote disconnect or reconnect capabilities. If you ever moved out of your house and you say, I'm going to move and I need the power shut off on Monday at 3, and the guy doesn't get there till Tuesday at 4, it's a little bit frustrating. And so what we can do now is if you set up and say, hey, I'm moving Monday at 3, the power can shut off. So that's pretty slick in the way that works. It also provides theft and tamper protection. So every once in a while, you got somebody who makes a decision that they'd rather steal the power. So in these old meters, if you install them upside down, the meter runs backwards. With new meters, you can install it upside down, and the meter doesn't run backwards, it runs forwards. But this one also tells me that it's been unplugged. So we can dispatch somebody out here to say, okay, what's going on? In many cases, what it does is it lets us rectify an unsafe situation because, again, you read in the paper sometimes that when customers using stereo wire to run power back and forth, and it hopefully prevents us in a timely fashion from allowing that to happen, which would be disastrous for the home. And then, of course, you've got products and customer-friendly rate options. So if you've got a person right now who owns 2 homes, billing cycle 1 could be on billing cycle 1, which means he has to pay the bill the first week of the month. And the other one could be on billing cycle 20, which means that he pays at the end of the month. Well, what this will allow you to do is you can bring them both together, and you can say, I want to pay them both on the 15th of the month. This will allow you to do that. So helps the customer, at least as far as I'm concerned. Page 8 is This is the customer data presentment that I was talking to you about, where you can actually see your reads by hour, by day. Now, again, if you look at this thing, you'll note that it gives the temperature, it gives the date, it gives the weekend. If you have the chart on the right, the lighter colors are weekend, the darker colors are weekdays, and you kind of get a perspective on how you're using your power. Again, that's something that you just kind of got to get used to doing. I mean, I know for my house, I've never once have I paid a whole lot of attention to how much energy I use at night. I just don't. So it's something you kind of got to get a feel for using and start to use. I mean, it's just something new that helps people save money.
Just a quick question on that.
Sorry.
How far back will this report allow you to track? I mean, what are your date selection options?
Well, from not until the meter was installed. So when the
Right.
meter's installed, you can go back, I think, like 3
It's
months.
actually out there almost a full year. We're gonna go on an archiving strategy to see how long we keep all that data for everybody.
So- So you don't have the ability now to look like, 3 years down the road that track annual usage and run comparables?
There will be intervals, maybe not necessarily hourly intervals kept, 3 years ago. You'll get more of the, as you get further away or longer backwards, it'll be less of the detailed data.
So more
month-
daily or
more
weekly or monthly?
You can do monthlies right now. This is available to you right now today, less the hourlies, for anybody who has a meter today.
That's the old
MA service.
How does this save us money on our usage?
Well, what it'll do is it'll give you information on your usage pattern. So, for example, and I'll give you my personal example. I leave my computer on all the time. So I get the meter, I'm looking and I'm saying, you know what, I don't like paying $66 a month for my electric usage, so I says, what can I do? So I cut the computer off at 10 o'clock when I go to bed. I turn it back on when I get up in the morning at 6 o'clock. And I do that for a week. And I start to watch how my usage goes down. Okay, and I'm going, holy cow, I use quite a bit of power today. And why do I leave the computer on? I don't know why I leave the computer on. So what it allows me to do is to make little adjustments and actually watch how it works.
Also, another question I had, when you track peak usage versus minimum, do you think someday you may charge less during the low usage hours? So like, for instance, if, like you said, at night, we did our laundry during the night, would we charge less for our electricity eventually?
Well, Detroit Edison has a plethora of rates. All right, I mean, most of us are either on the senior citizen rate or the standard residential rate, which doesn't offer those sort of things. All right, if a customer wants to go on a rate which offers what you're describing, absolutely, you can do that now. If you, I mean, I personally, I do my laundry at 6 in the evening, not at 2 in the morning. So I don't see that appealing to everybody. Now, page 9 talks about customer concerns. So there's still a group of people that say, you know what, this isn't for me, and that's fine. They give a lot of reasons why it's not for them. They talk about health and safety, they talk about privacy, they talk about other things. I'm usually the guy that talks to these customers, so I can tell you more stories than you can, well, maybe not you guys, but I can tell you more stories than you probably can believe. We don't believe there's any merit to these concerns. However, we went to the Michigan Public Service Commission, and we offered, or we developed, an opt-out program. So if a customer comes back and says, you know what, this isn't for me, I want to opt out of the program, there are rules that he can use to opt out of the program. Now, does that mean he gets to keep this meter, this old meter? No. We're still replacing all the meters in the service territory with these. But what we do is we shut the radio. There's a radio in this meter that communicates to us. So it becomes nothing more than a digital meter. And the program was final on May 16th of 2013. It's offered to all residential customers, and they don't need a reason to opt out other than want to opt out. That's fine with us. Now, there's fees involved, all right? There's a initial fee of $67.20. And that's because you have to send a guy out to shut the radio off, all of that kind of stuff. And then there's a monthly charge of $9.80 that the customer pays in addition to his bill. $9.80 is for a couple of things. One is to maintain the current billing systems that we've got. Second thing is to have a guy come out and actually manually read the meter. Now, in today's world, when a guy comes out and he's reading all the meters, he parks at the beginning of the block and he reads all the meters. In this world, they don't do that. They come in and they may read yours, and then they get back in the car and say, we're going to read mine. And they get back in the car and drive to Trenton and read his, and that's how it works. That's why there's fees. Now, for extreme details on how we get to those are on our website, and it's on the Michigan Public Service Commission orders. So a customer can go there and actually read how we got